Looks like have some people getting on, so we'll go ahead and get started. A couple housekeeping items. You'll notice that in the chat, I added a link to the presentation for the resources and sources from today in the presentation, along with some other sessions if you would like to look those as well or share it with other folks. We will be recording the session so that you can share this. It will be sent to you and any other registered attendees after the session is over. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Kate Pyland, and I am a customer success coach with GradeCam. And Katie is also on with me today. She is manning the chat. You see her there. And sometimes we have Busy on with us as well. She is in the support department, so you may have talked to her or seen emails from her in the past. We are a very active support group, so we always like to kind of see, we put our cartoon faces in here and Bitmojis, but you get to see us in person too, because we always like to connect with customers just like you. If you have any questions, feel free to put those into the chat. You can always do that there. If you want to just send things directly to support@gradecam.com, you can do that as well. So I'm going to get going. Katie does have us recorded, making sure we got in there. So before we get started, we do want to highlight that if you haven't been in GradeCam recently, we do have some new updates and features within the program with new navigations, with this nice homepage here, just making it easier for teachers as they get in to navigate quickly around the program to get to the things that they need to get to, as well as some other online functionality that we've increased in the last, I would say, 6 months or so. If you'd like to learn more about any of those, you can click on any of the links here in the presentation and learn a little bit more. If you're working in the online portion, that's also something to keep in mind, is you guys do have that access as a part of your GradeCam account. You have both paper and digital options when collecting student responses. We also work with some LMSs, so if you want to learn a little bit more about those links are here as well. So all those resources will be available to you after today's session, right in the presentation that I put into the chat. So today is about going beyond multiple choice, and this is really nice because this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about when I get to talk about GradeCam and all the functionality and the capabilities that you can do. I am a former art teacher. I taught art, computers, and careers, so I kind of taught those non-traditional subjects. So multiple choice didn't always work for me. There was a lot of other things that would go on in an assessment or looking at how I was collecting student learning data. So I love that I get to do this presentation about collecting, going beyond that multiple choice. We'll do a step-by-step. I'll touch on some pro tips, how you can extend that a little further, as well as some extra credit that if you want to go do even more or share those resources with others that would be interested, those resources will be on the extra credit slide. So in the step-by-step, we're going to go into an existing assignment and talk about editing those question types. If you've never created a GradeCam assignment before, you can always go back and review the creating an assignment for scanning or online. We also have a ton of resources available on our support site. We're going to talk about those question types so you can kind of walk through which ones work best in different situations. And then collecting those responses, what does it look like and how can you give additional feedback and response back to your students? So I'm going to jump over to GradeCam for now. And you can see this brand new homepage. Like I said, if you haven't seen it before, with these lovely tiles, we're going to go into an existing assignment so we can talk about those question types. So if I click on view assignment, and then I'm going to go into my clone here. Now, what you'll notice that if you have an existing assignment in GradeCam that you're walking along with me today, if you want to change the question types, you will not be able to change the question type itself if you have responses in here. So that's why I did make a clone. So if you want to do that, you can always click up here at the top, say clone the assignment or copy it. That way there's no responses in there. You can't change a question type on a student. If you've already got responses, they responded multiple choice, you change it to fill in blank. It's not really fair to them. So just kind of keeping that in mind is you want to have an assignment that has no responses or just make a quick clone. So I'm going to go into the key. You can see here I've got this already set up with a variety of question types. So we're going to kind of walk through those just so you can see the variety. If I click on the first one, this is a multiple choice, these are customizable. So you can adjust this to match what you want to have going on in your test. I have this matching my test over here. So it does just start with some straight up questions, asking the students for some basic information. But if you wanted to customize these, such as they had to put in, you want to customize the multiple choice to be command, statement, question, exclamation, CSQD or QE there, you could customize those responses as well. So it's just still a multiple choice, but adding that customization may make it a little clearer for your littles when they're answering it on their form. So I'm going to leave this at multiple choice, but if I click on the type, you'll see the variety of question types that are available to you. Multiple choice and true, false, pretty traditional. You have number grid, which allows you to collect numeric responses based on those bubbles, and it does a bubble column down the line. You can either have that collecting bubbles on the form and they type right in their response and then fill in the bubbles. You can also have the bubble grid online. Some teachers like that for matching their testing environment that they may have on their state testing, so they want that to look similar. Numeric and fill in the blank are going to turn into like lines, but they're going to still have a straight answer. I've got a couple fill in the blanks down here, so let me move my zoom control super fast and zoom down to one. So this is a fill in the blank question type. It is still up here in the auto graded is because I have provided an answer. So it's not just a multiple choice. I'm asking for the students to construct a fill in the blank response to that question. On my test itself, if you want to see how this looks, you can see I have it as a character matching. I could have had this as A, B, C, D, E, and then this would be a bubble question that they had to fill in A, B, C, or D, whichever response it would be. But I wanted to make this a little bit more complex and asking the students to write in the name. If you want to up that rigor even more, I can actually remove a question, the word bank. If you remove word banks from the question, you're not providing any sort of support to the student. You're asking them to know that vocabulary and what context it needs to be used in. So you're not providing them with that answer, just makes it a little bit more complex, but you still are giving them a straight concrete answer that GradeCam can grade for you. Numeric and fill in the blank look fairly similar on the form. Both of them are going to be like an area for the students to handwrite in, or online it shows up as a text box area. The difference is numeric only collects number responses, while fill in the blank is alphanumeric. So if you'll see down here that I actually have 120, this is a numeric response, but if I wanted to say 120 lemonades, I would need to change that to a fill in the blank type question because it's letters and numbers. Okay, so same kind of concept. They look pretty similar and they both require an answer. It's just knowing what answer is going to go into that place. So let me go back up here to my fill in the blank so we can look at this one a little bit further. I can add a custom question header. That's one of my favorite things to do on the fill in the blank and the numeric questions, just to extend that a little bit further so that the students can see that question right above it on the form, or if they're working digitally, they see that right next to it. So students would fill in the responses there. You can get a general idea of what it looks like at this point. Now, if I keep going down, just so you can see some of the other question types. So I talked about numeric, but this one here is a open response capture, which is my favorite type of question to go a little bit further. So this question falls down here under the pink section in the teacher graded items, because you're looking at students performing a skill, demonstrating their knowledge, and there can be a wide range of answers there. Remember, as an art teacher, I was always looking at the performance or skill, and every student could approach drawing an apple in a slightly different way and still get to the end. They could give me multiple steps for how they drew that apple, and they wouldn't be wrong. So there's lots of variation. So that's a piece that's going to be graded by me as the teacher, because I have to look at the criterion that I wanted to grade that against, as well as review what the student was telling me, because they can tell it to me in a variety of ways. So open response is going to provide an area for those students to either handwrite or draw a response on the form. They can either draw this out, what's that going to look like, or they just write a more extended response for that question. So you're kind of thinking about different ways. If I come back out, open response, I'm going to grade this on a scale. So I can go 0, 1, 2, 3. You can also adjust your multiplier. If you don't want to put extra weight on an open response type of question, I don't want this to be worth a max of 3 points, because that can maybe sink a student on their assignment. I could actually bump this down to 0.5 as the multiplier. So if they select 1, if you select 1 when you're scoring it, it's going to be half a point. If you select 2, it's going to be 1 point, and it maxes out there at 1.5. So that way you're not putting more weight or power to that particular question. You're asking a different type of depth of knowledge, but you may not want to put more weight on it in some certain cases. I also added 3 text rows, so approximately it looks like this. I can go up to 10, and I added line separators. I taught middle school and they can't write on a straight line, so I need to give them as many lines and supports to make this as clean as possible, so then when it's collected as an image for me to grade later, it's much cleaner for me to review. Okay. So that is the open response. And the way this, I also had a custom question header, but I want to show you what this looks like on my quiz. So there was my math question that had a numeric response to it. Here's my extended response. And both of these I just used as an open response question, grading it with that scale. Now, this last question type is summarize the book. I want them to record a video. They have to video chat with me, or I just need to meet with, they have to walk up to my table and explain to me in the summarization 3 minutes about the book and the section they read. They need to include important details. So this is definitely a performance or a demonstration of their understanding. And I'm not even asking it for on this test. I may be looking at their speaking ability or speaking skills and what are they using to present that to me. Maybe it was creating a presentation. I'm also scoring that, but I want to collect all their scores together within this one form. So I'm still going to collect that score on the GradeCam form. So if I go back to my GradeCam form, I'm going to go down to that number 12, which is right here. So I have, this is just a rubric and points. It's meaning as a rubric and points, the big difference from open responses, I'm not actually collecting any response directly on the form from the student, because me as the teacher will grade that when they come talk to me, they submit a video, they maybe I even excuse them from it. I want to take that off there. Those are some things that you can think of. I just want to keep this as a rubric points type question. With that, I have my grading options. I adjusted my scale. This has a max score of 5, but you can see it just will show up as bubbles on the form. So that's changing up the different question types. And how does this look itself? So if I go over to forms, I'm going to actually do this one specific to a student. And then I'm going to generate it just so you can see it a little bit larger. And download. I just want to put this on the screen so that you guys can see those form questions as well. So here you can see there's your traditional bubble. These are your fill in the blanks as you go down. This is that numeric response. I just didn't add a custom question header to it, but I could have. And then these are those open responses. And then this is the last performance where they have to come up and tell me about the book that they read in the section that they were reading. Okay, so it's just putting all those different types of questions all in one form so that I can still continue to collect that great learning data. GradeCam is going to grade those ones that have an orange little thing here on the side. Did you ever see that? That was a key there. GradeCam is going to grade these for you. You can come back and review these so that you can collect all the scores together, tie them all to standards. So you can collect that data easily. So what does this look like when I'm collecting it? So for that, I do have to go out to another assignment. So I'm going to go back to this one that actually has some responses into it. You can see here that I've got a collection of responses. It's pretty close. It's slightly different, but this here is my responses that were the fill in the blank, and it's going to grade those for me or review them, depending on if it needed to have a little bit more information. What I like to do is the by question grading to make this much quicker. So that by question, I know that that very last one, I want to review all of this number 9 here, which was that question that had a more extended response, and I can score that. If it's typed in, you see student wrote, typed in, this came in from an online assessment. But as I scroll down, you'll actually see that my handwritten responses are also collected here as well. So I can distribute this both digitally and on paper form and collect all my responses back in one place to review that data. As I go down, I can choose the bubbles or make my adjustments to those scores if I need to. I can go to my next question, which was also an open response. And I can go to this last rubric scoring. So if I pull this last rubric score up and I'm watching videos, I can split my screen to look and watch the video if I want to. It was submitted to me there, or I just wait till the student comes up and talks to me in class, and then I'm going to add their score here. Okay, so a few different ways that you can think about collecting different types of responses from students. Also with the open response, and something I always like to point out is you can actually provide feedback to the students right here in the or within the teacher program. So if I click on that little bubble that was sitting right up here and start typing in feedback and saying that is a great response, the student can get this back on the student portal, so you can provide a little bit more in-depth feedback. So be sure to review chapter 3 for Friday. Like maybe there's some more information that I need to give them there. This will then be sent back to the student via the student portal. So when they log in to review their assignment and see how they did and look at those questions, they get specific feedback to them for their questions. So really good about how you just taking that just beyond a traditional type of assessment or questions in your classroom. So go ahead and hit save. All right, so let me pop back over here just to do a quick review. You do have in support articles within this presentation, as well as in-app tutorials on editing those questions. If you click on anything that says an in-app tutorial, it's going to take you into GradeCam and walk you through it and kind of give you a step-by-step process. So it's really good to share with other teachers that you use that may not know quite where to get started with GradeCam, is encourage them to use those in-app tutorials. We talk about the by question and the providing feedback if you would like to learn a little bit more about those. Here are some pro tips as well. We kind of touched on a little bit of this with talking about adjusting that multiplier. If you want to adjust the scale on either your points, or if you want a multiple choice question to be worth 10 points, you can make those point adjustments as well. This also goes into partial credit. So if there were, say, 2 answers, so let me go back over here to my assignment. I'm going to go back to my key, and I want to go to this fill in the blank one here. It says Megan Moriarty. So if I hit Megan Moriarty, for 1 point, I can add a partial credit as well. So I can add either alternate responses. So if a student would type in Megan or answer with Megan, I'm only going to give them half credit. So that's providing partial credits. They didn't get the full answer, but they did give me an alternate answer. I can put in different spellings if I need to do different spellings. I know one that has come up a lot when we're reviewing is I think about Jessie. Sometimes people may want to put an I in there. So it's Jessie, and I'm still going to make that worth 1 point. So it's just adjusting to make it work for you and expanding what you can collect with those different types of answers and question types that you're putting into your program or into your GradeCam form, excuse me. So let me go back over here. So those were talking about adding your additional answers, which is also applying that partial credit. If you want to adjust your multiplier, each question or scale is a different scoring or how many points are available for it. And then this video here is the 3 formative activities using the different question types. This is actually a video that we did that kind of breaks down if you use multiple choice, how can you amp it up using the fill in the blank, how can you amp it up using an open response, but taking the same type of quiz or a very similar type of quiz, but how you're collecting different types of learning from that student, different levels of DOK. If it is just multiple choice, because you just want to know, do they know that piece or not? Do they know the correct vocabulary? And can they use that vocab word in the correct context? It's kind of breaking it down to different ways using the different question types. So a great resource to share out if you would like to use it. The observational form is really, really awesome. So I want to take a few quick minutes here to share a little bit about it because it is definitely beyond multiple choice. It's so beyond that it's a different question type. So there are different form types. Excuse me. Let me hit save here so I don't lose my progress. I'm going to create an assignment. So I was back on that home screen, create assignment. We're going to now go into an observational assignment. When you create an observational assignment, it looks very similar to what you were creating before with a multiple question that you may think of most often. But now you're going to break it down into the criterion. What performances or demonstration or skills are you going to be actually looking at and how many different levels? And you can break it down into 1 to 6 criterion. So I'm going to get out of this one and go to an existing one to show you how it's already set up. So I'm going to go to my ePortfolio review. This is an observation form that if I go to the key, you'll see I have 6 different criterion. And they have different points associated with them. I have like selection of artifacts. They had to provide a variety of artifacts from their classroom work to show their growth. Did they use multimedia to present the information in different ways? What were their reflection pieces? So I had different tasks or performance or skills. Again, I can still tie these to standards. I didn't on this particular one, but it looks exactly like a question. So if I want to add a standard, you could add that right here. If you wanted to adjust the points, so you see that these top 3 here, or these 3 are going to be worth 20, then these are worth both 10 each, and then this last one's worth 20, so it equals up to 100. Depends on how you want to set that up. This form is more filled out by the teacher's side as students are completing an assignment. So let me pull this out, and again, I'm going to generate so that it makes it a little easier for you guys to see. Here we go. So you'll see here that I have my list of students. And here are my criterion across the top. As a teacher, I would print this off. I can put this on my clipboard and I can handwrite in the scores that I give the students as I'm reviewing their e-portfolio projects. So I can just go across the line and write, 15, 17. I may have a different rubric that I'm scaling this off of and scoring off to the side so that I can provide that more immediate score. Once I've written this in, I place it under my document camera or use my mobile device and scan it, and all those scores are collected in one place. So I'm not collecting it as a multiple choice that you would typically think of. It's that observation or skill or demonstration. Think science lab, think big project that there's multiple steps that they have to make sure they get each one. Think about class presentation, Socratic seminars. There's kind of a lot of different ways you can think about using this type of assessment to still collect learning data for your students. So we have linked the observational assignment and some of those great things you can do right here in the presentation. So as we wrap things up, feel free to throw your questions into the chat if you would like. I'm just going to hit on a couple things for extra credit, but you can go ahead and start typing. So in extra credit, these are things that you can do to think about how you can expand your forms in different ways. I love these subject-specific idea sheets. If you're a teacher leader within your school and your GradeCam account, definitely take a look at these so that if you have somebody in the English department that says, I just don't know where to start, we've provided a variety of different question types and how they're used in the English classroom and how it could look. So, there's all the subjects here. If somebody wants to talk about versions and variations, they use in different question layouts on their tests. What does that look like? Score and credit is another form type. Also thinking about that skill or performance base that you can look at. If you saw it when I looked at my creating assignment, you saw that I had a couple other options here. Those are definitely ones to look at as well. And then these last three down here are just 3 different creative assignments. And they're just videos kind of talking about different ways to create different assignments and laid out in different ways to collect different kind of learning. So really, really an awesome opportunity to expand your use of GradeCam beyond just a traditional test, multiple choice test, because a lot of people say, I don't do just multiple choice. I didn't either. So these are things that you can think about using in your classroom and different ways of expanding that function in use so you can still capture that great learning data. So that's kind of where I have things ended up. If you do have any questions, feel free to hop those in the chat. I will stop recording here shortly so that you guys can stay on and talk about that. Otherwise, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to support@gradecam.com. There is our contact information. We'll answer those questions as they come in, and we always appreciate any feedback that you guys have for us.